Hi, I'm Al, and this is Taxi Studio Be More, Fearless, Open Up podcast series. And today is the final chat on the 5 stages of fear, and those being imagination, fear, paralysis, acceleration, and memories. And it gives me great joy to welcome Spiros Margaris. Hi, Spiros, how are you?
All right, thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure to speak to you today. Yes.
Perfect. I'm super looking forward to it because today we're going to be chatting about like the final stage of like fear, memories, and how that's affected like you in your life and how you've used that as potentially a superpower to get past things as well. So I've got a host of interesting questions that we can share and talk about as we go through.
I hope I have some answers.
I hope so too, but I'm pretty sure we're going to get there. Don't you worry. That's a good start. I like that. Otherwise, it's going to be a really short podcast. So I'm just going to give a very quick introduction to our listeners about yourself and your life. As we understand, you're Swiss nationality, educated at Sotheby Institute of Art, University St Gallen in Toronto, advisor to many global businesses, including WeFox Group, Spark Labs, F10 Fintech Incubator Accelerator, Media Stacker. So I think it's fair to say that you've been achieving greatness in business. And I'd also like to add that actually a lot of these businesses help the wider world and people. And that's a point that I'll come on to later on in some of the discussions that we talk about. And, just as a summary recap, I think, for the listeners again, so you're a venture capitalist, you're an influencer, you're a senior advisor, you're an author, and ranked #1 finance influencer again this year.
Yes,
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I was ranked by Onalytica and by Refinitiv and separately. Yeah, it's a nice run, and I'm fortunate to be in the space I am and to have such great followers, which I follow as well. It's like, it's a give and take.
Symbiosis. Yeah, perfect. So that's brilliant. I'd just like to recap or explain a bit about memories and that stage within the 5 stages of fear. So like memories, what are memories in this category? So fear is our inbuilt survival mechanism. And if we did not experience fear, we'd not live for very long, to be quite frank. And it stops us from picking up snakes that might bite us or walking down a dodgy looking street and from making the same mistakes that have hurt us in the past. That's the good that memories can do. And what we do is we curate like a brain bank of inherent memories to protect us from situations that could cause us trouble in the future. But one of the bits I'd like to discuss today is not only is it used as a form of protection, but actually I think it's used in a form to propel us forward. But we'll come to that in a minute. So I'd just like to reflect, maybe just to kind of like start off in the early years a little bit. And I've done a bit of research and read a bit about you, Spiros, and I think it's fair, Swiss born, and I think it's fair to say, and you've quoted your parents lived like a simple life. So I'm assuming you had quite like a simple, normal upbringing.
That made me hungry. That kind of simple upbringing, good upbringing, made me hungry.
Perfect. Well, that's exactly what I wanted to ask. Actually, I was like, what from that life before drove you into this career? Because this is quite a niche career, really. I know it's it's a huge growing segment within the business and commercial world now, as we see it. But
technology, AI, machine learning, all those technologies. I mean, they become more and more popular. But I don't think when we're very young, I don't think we know where we're gonna head or where we're going to land. And it's just, it's things that you wish you could achieve and things that happen, but I always wanted to be where I am now, but there were moments I believed it would never happen. So, that's how life is. I mean, I wished to go into finance very early. I was in banking, hedge funds, the entrepreneur in New York. I lived in New York for a long time. I failed, and I failed often. Oh, thank God, not always. And I think when you're very young, you're much more fearless because you have less to lose.
I think that's a very good point actually, and it's
No
I quite.
kids, no money, no nothing. Just a bright future possible.
Yeah, like you had, yeah, the odds were in your favor. I think, some people look at that in a different way, but actually, when you have nothing to lose, then actually you're gambling with something very small. So why not? I think that's, we'll come on chat about risk later actually. So I think that's a great way to open it up. And I do love the fact that actually, and I've mentioned it in some of the previous podcasts. I think, trying to coach my daughters who are like, coming in their early 20s now. But
Hmm.
actually, like, you don't really have to define your future per se. I mean, I was very lucky. I kind of always knew I wanted to work in this career, like with regards to like, brand and design. But actually, many people don't. And actually, I think, the modern way is actually that lots of people have mini careers throughout their life. And that's a good thing because they can bring all those experiences with them along. So that's good it's good to hear that actually you've ended up somewhere in an incredible place without actually defining that from an early point. You've arrived
No
there.
way. I mean, there's
Great.
no. I forgot the name of a very famous American actor in the 1920s, 30s, and he said it takes a lot of rehearsals to become yourself. And I think that's so true. I think about it a lot. And about the fear thing, some people get paralyzed by fear. For me, fear is something that I try to attack, and it drives me. I tell all my startups, and I'm in many startups, and I always tell them only the paranoid survive. It's not to be paranoid as a sickness, but just to have this fear that people will catch up with you and surpass you. So if you live by this philosophy, which is not mine, it is my philosophy now, but it's by Andy Grove, the former chairman of Intel, wrote a book about this. You stay on your toes, and fear can be a good thing. It stays you pay more attention to things.
I
Because it doesn't
absolutely agree.
paralyze you. If it paralyzes you, then I guess it's not a good method for you.
Yeah.
It's there's no such thing as one thing for everyone. Fear
No.
for me is a good thing to a certain extent, but it's not good for everyone.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, we've categorized the 5 stages, which are kind of like they roll into each other. And I agree, some people actually get stuck in some of those phases. And
Mm-hmm.
we've had really good conversations prior to this one today with some other people about like how that's affected them and how they push really hard to get through that. But I think you're right as well. Having that paranoia sometimes is a good accelerant if you use it in the right way. Like totally, like you have been able to want to have that desire to look over your shoulder to like keep pushing forward. And I again, I've got a few kind of headline questions to like push towards there
Yeah.
in the chat as we move forward. When you were a child, did you have any specific memories? Have you got any memories as a child that you like can quote as being fearful, like they were experiences that you were afraid of at all?
My ambitions was always bigger than my achievements, but I dragged my achievements with me. So slowly I built on it. I think, but yeah, I think we have nothing. Not in a bad way. I don't feel like underprivileged. I grew up in a very nice place. I mean, Switzerland, but uh, but I think yeah, there were sometimes there were fears. I can't really think about it much. I don't remember many fears I had. I think, but I guess with failures, school failures, whatever, you think more about the consequences of those failures at the moment. And when time passes, you laugh about it. But if I look back, it's just a test. We don't have the perspective that comes with age.
That's very, very true. And I think, when we're younger, we often see and experience many different things, and
Mm-hmm.
they can become disproportionate in our own view of how important they are or how they affect us. And it is age that really affects and changes our ability to deal with and understand with them differently. And, I spend quite a lot of time trying to like, mentor and coach my own children in that way. But it's one of those things that I really have to be honest about it. It's like something you have to learn.
Yeah, it's like the hot stove. I mean, if you tell your kids don't touch it because you're going to burn yourself, we all have touched it. It's not the words that made us learn that lesson, it was the pain.
It absolutely is. But, you know, I mean, I
It
was
goes
going to...
for everyone, I think. I mean, this is nothing new, but, you know.
No, no, but they're good. They're good little reminders for us all. But there's lots of like positive messaging wrapped up in that, like, you know. And I think like a lot of us carry around, you know, maybe fears, like you say, that have, you know, like helped propel us forward. You know, I think, you know, on reflection, it's not something I ever really thought of before until, like, you know, probably in the last sort of 5 or so years. But like, you know, like you, I was very, very lucky. I had an amazing upbringing from my parents who, you know, they had a business, and grew up in a family of butchers. And so I feel very, very lucky, you know. But unfortunately, my father did lose his business later on in his career because, like, the supermarkets came over and basically took over basically that entire segment. Like, you know, Tesco's and Sainsbury's were to move in, and they basically killed the local community. And I didn't really think of it at the time, you know, it's something we dealt with and moved forward with. But I think there's probably been in the back of my head that fear of, like, you know, not being, you know, losing something myself at some point, you know, and running a business with, you know, my two fellow partners who I've known for a long time. I think that's been pushing me forward in a positive way.
You see this paranoia, this experience to know things can change and change your business and the life in your life, you know. And I think it, you know, as painful as probably it has been for your father and for the family to some degree, it's a lesson that basically even in your business you will always look around. Is there some Tesco, not a Tesco in your business, but is there somebody who will eat your lunch, you know?
Yes. Yeah, totally. So
If not, even better. But
you're always looking. You're always
only the prepared. I know, luck favors the prepared mind. Yes.
Yeah, no, totally. And I mean, when we set this business up, like 18 years ago, back in 2002, the three of us.
Very successful though.
Thank you. We've been incredibly lucky. You know, we work really hard. We're tenacious. We're passionate. We're kind of like, you know, always worried about the creative product and the relationships that we build. But we built that business at the start of, like, what was, like, you know, again, it wasn't a great time in the economy. The .com had just burst. It had gone flat. So there was, like, you know, there was a fear then. I mean, when you look back at, like, your early career, have there been some, like, moments where it wasn't going so well?
Of course, I lived at .com. I had huge billboards in New York. I had the business which was too early. It was called Cool Question. Basically, in a nutshell, it allowed experts to get paid for their opinion. We're talking 2000, you know, but it was too early because people were just getting used to the internet. They weren't even willing. Even now, it's still early, but it will happen that you will pay, like, for expert opinions. You know, you will pay like maybe an accountant or a doctor, whatever, who has a good rating. But nevertheless, you know, people forget that when you fail again and your failure, it's not only you fail your business, it has consequences financially. You have to look for a new career. Maybe it's not good for your marriage. You know, I'm a second time married, and even my first wife was a very good woman. So it's, I guess I'm more to blame. But it has a lot of consequences, you know.
Yeah,
but it made me who I am. It's all the successes, failures, and I think failures is, I learn more from failures than from success, because you don't reflect when you're successful.
yeah,
It's like a nice run, you know. It's like, oh, it's nice, but although I'm successful for years now in my space, but I remind myself, you know, why am I successful? You know, stay, you know, try to stay on top of it, because I think I call it like a fire, and you always have to throw some wood on, so the fire doesn't go out. But when you're young, you're successful, you think, oh, this fire is burning like hell. No wood is needed anymore. And also when it's out, you know, I know the difference. I know it's a nice fire. It took a long time to, you know, like the Stone Age. You, like how you made this fire, it took a long time to make it. And I'm looking always for wood to throw into this fire.
Nurture. It's a very key word in business, isn't it? An absolute key word. I think, you know, you need to nurture business on all different facets, actually.
Beautiful said.
It's, you know, you've got people, you've got product, you've got the clients, and they all need that nurturing, because you're absolutely right. If you don't feed it, it goes out, and it can go out really really quickly if you're not watching it. If you turn your back for 1 minute, it's like along comes a big gust of wind and takes it out, and you're done.
It's getting very cold afterwards. No, we are both entrepreneurs, so I think we can relate to this.
Yeah. Maybe as entrepreneurs, maybe there's a little scientific bit of research that we could do there, and we all run a couple of degrees colder than most people.
Very good.
Maybe. I mean that's great. We started talking about the F word, actually, and I'm a massive fan of it, and you're a massive fan of it. Like, failure is what drives us forward. Like, it absolutely is. And it's that fear of failure and the memories that we hold about those times. Have you built or advised any of your businesses specifically around like stuff that's come from there? I imagine there must be businesses that you're associated with that have sprung up or come about from those types of situations. They've come out from a need state where there's something wrong.
Of course, I mean, as I said before, I tell everyone only the paranoid survives. I tell them to. I mean, I'm fortunate now to use what I've learned. I'm like a coach, and for instance, media stock is a good example. 2 years ago, 2 years and 3 months, not even 2 months, yeah, maybe 3 months, they were nowhere. They had just 3 clients in Greece, and they had too many ideas, no website, no nothing. So I told them, hey, stay focused. Do what you do well. Don't think of new ideas. Just sell what people buy. So if people buy milk from you, don't try to sell them sandwiches first. Try to produce the best milk out there. And when you're really big in that, you can explore little other things. Now we are in Israel. We do global pilots in Brazil, Sweden, UK, Switzerland. Within 2 years, 3 years, and 3 months. Of course, the work was done by them, but it was this experience I had to stay focused. I wish I knew what I know now. Maybe I wouldn't be as crazy when I was then,
Well, that's the golden elixir of life right there, isn't it? Like, if we could flip it upside down and be that kind of like Benjamin Button life where you have everything.
My God, I would be a killer. But nevertheless, I mean, it's just as long as there's failures, we will continuously have failures. I mean, if we don't have failures, it means we don't try hard enough.
I absolutely agree.
But I don't want any failure to destroy the business. So therefore, you have to control a little bit the projects where you can fail. But little failures is important, because otherwise we drive too slow.
Yeah, totally. It's the ability to like push forward, fall over, bloody your nose, pick yourself up, learn from it, dust yourself down, and move forward again, and like holding on to those memories in the right way. Lots of people, like you say, lots of people fail, and they categorize that memory in the wrong way. It kind of like you say, it paralyzes them. It shifts them back a couple of stages. They lose that acceleration, which comes to stage before. But actually, there is a real opportunity to like label a memory in the right way. I think, and that's super important, particularly in business, but also in life itself. Like these memories can come, from our personal experiences as well. So we shouldn't let them define us as we move forward.
I think if I were brought up by wealthy parents, my character would not have been suited for a career. I just say everything, even bad things, not bad, it's just a situation. Defines who you are, then my parents worked hard, so I worked just as hard as well, I hope. But but the nice thing about failure, good point I would like to make very quickly, my parents worked very hard both, but it was easy for me to surpass them, because they had different upbringing. It was not the president of the big company or whatever, which some people are paralyzed. But if their parents are too successful, because they believe I can't surpass them, but you can, because you just have to do something different. If you follow somebody's footstep, you cannot surpass them. You have to do something different. You know, if I look at Roger Federer, if I want to play, if I want to beat him, I would be very crazy to play tennis with him. So I have to do something different with him, you know. And the same thing in life, you know. You have to find a way to, like you did with the creativity, to find your path to success.
I totally agree. And you can be led by someone else's footsteps, but you have to have the ability to like step forward and take your own journey. And you know, that's again, like, you know, I've been referencing my daughters quite a lot. I think that's one of the things that you try and teach them. You try and give them the tools to like create their own path forward. You can point them in the right direction, but you don't want to like define that map journey for them. They need to like, you know, need to navigate and fall and discover the bits themselves along that way. And I mean, it's just bringing me on to a point around like, so I've got an assumption, Spiros. So I've got an assumption that I think you're a massive dreamer. Okay, and I mean that in a positive way. So I don't mean that in like the kind of like unproductive daydreaming, although daydreaming can be productive itself. But I think you're a daydreamer, and that daydreaming has led to you like being adventurous in your exploits in, like, you know, business. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I think to be a dreamer, it's a good thing. It's a really good thing, you know. And I hope we don't lose it. Of course, I think we will lose it slowly with age because we become a little jaded. For the people who don't know the word, it's just we've seen many things, but life is, you know, life is wonderful. I mean, my previous wife once said, you know, life writes books nobody could write. You know,
Yeah.
life is more imaginative how things can happen. As I said before, I gave up dreaming being who I am now, but it happened. So I'm very fortunate. I'm very. I mean, I call this a huge luck, and I'm very grateful. Very grateful. But there were moments I really gave up. I thought, okay, this dream not gonna happen. And,
But that's persistence and resilience. Two of my favorite words, actually. Two of my very favorite words: persistence and resilience.
but you must have moments where in your career that you thought, yeah, maybe it was wrong. Maybe I
Yeah,
could have done something different.
yeah, totally. I think those moments come to you in different forms, don't you? One, like, you know, like there's hardship, like maybe in like personal life, which affects like everything you're doing, you know. And then there can be hardship in like economy, you know, like, you know, you just got to look around like how the world's changing right now. But actually, there's also a lot of good out there. And I think, you know, it's one of the things that annoys me right now about the global pandemic, if I'm being honest about it, is the media storm that is like focusing on the negativity. Because from a commercial perspective, there is a lot of good and growth in it. You just need to look in some areas. Obviously, there is a lot of devastating outcome as well, but actually there is good as well, and advancements in technology and growth in other sectors. You just need to, like, you know, as a world, we need to move towards those things. And again, I think that's about often lots of people's outward vision in regards to how accepting they are of change. Not everybody is. I'm not saying
But we don't like changes, even if we're in the business of change. But it's because it takes you out of the comfort zone.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's the biggest thing against human behavior, isn't it? We don't like to do it. You know, we deal with it quite a lot in some of the businesses that we work with. You know, we help them manage change, whether that be with their clients or their internal. But you know, that is the point of a massive point of
I mean,
resistance.
humankind. It just came to me. I wrote the essay, just advance through change. I mean, imagine if we didn't adapt to changes.
Well,
We're not talking now.
yeah, totally. And
Not at least in this form.
no, definitely not. It's maybe with a cup and a piece of string tied between it for a very long time ago.
If the world would depend on my innovations, yes.
Brilliant. But again, I think that's like, you know, like we are as a world right now going through huge change. So I'm quite excited about the big changes that this can bring, you know, whether that's like better focuses on sustainability, whether people are going to like travel less, and like, you know, all the positive impacts that can come from that. But this is a big change right now. And out of that, like particularly like from a technology point of view, there's going to be some huge leaps forward, like huge.
You know, what happens is that the people are much more open to changes. Like, for instance, grandparents all of a sudden used FaceTime or Zoom or whatever, more likely FaceTime or something like that, to see the grandchildren. Even the people who didn't know how to do it, all of a sudden they were forced to. And they liked it because it's easy. I mean, if it weren't easy, it wouldn't be happening. And what happened now is the adoption to change accelerated. You know, I think innovations happens with a certain speed, quite, I mean, very fast, obviously, but I think we're humans. It's the humans that hold it back in terms of like that. You know, it's sometimes too fast. But now through this pandemic, some changes happened. You know, people, for instance, went away from cash to cashless, to credit cards, to uses more, even though people don't understand completely. I mean, a lot of people do, but a lot of masses, the consequences of going cashless, you know, there's privacy, surveillance, a lot of things which are not that good. And I tell people sometimes, imagine, now we never imagined that we would wear masks or often COVID-19, but imagine you don't have electricity. You know, something like, we didn't imagine COVID, but it could happen, you know, that we don't have electricity. If you don't have electricity, how are you going to take money out? How are you going to pay things? How are you going to go for milk?
Yeah, there's a lot of complicated bits there, isn't there?
You imagine could never happen. So basically, I encourage people to, although I'm in the business of cashless society, I encourage people still to hold cash, because there's not one medicine for everything. You know, we should still hedge our bets to a certain degree.
Yeah.
This to that. I mean, this came just out of the blue, but
yeah, that's a very good piece of advice from someone like yourself. So, so like being visionary, then visionary is good, isn't it? You know, we started off saying like dreamer, but I think visionary is absolutely important and key to like change. And being visionary, I think people that are good at envisioning like the future and looking forward, that's fueled by memories and stuff, and looking at it and having the ability to like maybe like change or see if there can be a different outcome going forward. But it does definitely give us maybe a North Star to go towards. Have you got in particular any single accomplishment that you're like massively proud of?
No, I mean, being number one is a nice thing. I think being a better person. I had stages in life where I'm more an asshole, but not per se. But I had moments.
Yeah.
I think you get over. I think I'm more proud that I'm more balanced. I'm more. I realize how fortunate I am, and I realize that we have to help people who are less fortunate. I think this thing that the possibilities to help others in many ways. I think that's what I'm proud of. That this part of my personality is growing daily. You know,
I think
it's not about money. It's just giving people time, helping people wherever you can. I think that's you know, I think that's very important to help less fortunate people.
That's a great answer, actually. And I loved how you actually spoke about that versus it being a commercial achievement, actually. So, I mean, you've started like just edging on where I was moving towards with regards to, I think, you know, I've started doing a bit of reading and looking at like some of the businesses you advise. And would it be fair to say that, like, you know, like fintech actually is starting to help? You know, when we spoke about it in the intro about yourself, it's starting to help like address like issues on a global scale and cultures and people that are underprivileged or don't have access. So
absolutely. I mean, that's a nice. I mean, I think I had a TEDx talk once many years ago, and I mentioned it then already that I think the legacy of fintech will not be. I think I hope it will not just be remembered that it gave us better banking experience, better ways of managing our money and paying, but to helping people who didn't have any banking access, any possibility to send cheaply money to their relatives. Those are to help people who were unbanked or underbanked, to give them possibilities to do banking, to have a bank account. Because if you don't have a bank account, you can't rent a place because you can't, you can't get paid easily. I mean, it's like, you go to your boss and say, okay, what's your bank account? You go to rent a place, you need a bank account, you need, all this, you need a credit card, even more important, but which is connected to a banking. I mean, you can also have a prepaid card, but helping the less privileged, underbanked, non-bank people, that's the legacy of fintech, I think. But fintech is just, I mean, it's very hard to define. It's just a technology that drives finance into the future, but finance and technology. But it's not, I don't think all those players have that in mind. But nevertheless, doesn't matter, because it's, even if the side effect of advancement in fintech helps the underbanked, unbanked people, it's good, it's like,
I'd agree.
it's a side product, but it's a big side product, even better.
Yeah, I'd agree. Like, having been and worked in, we work in many diverse countries right across the world. And on part of this journey, a few years ago, we were working in Middle Africa and Nigeria.
Okay.
And having seen, so a couple of things that surprised me about my visit to Nigeria. One was actually how they had embraced technology. So I found it quite incredible. We were walking around some of the biggest slums actually in Lagos, and the only way I can describe it is but when I was growing up, there was there were corner shops or shops in the near towns where I grew up that would repair TVs and stuff like that, which there are maybe only a handful of those types of places left in the UK now, but that was a big thing. There was a TV repair shop that would deal with radios and TVs.
Mm-hmm.
Right in the middle of a slum, one of the biggest slums in the world in Lagos, there were these little corner shop outlets which were just basically crates pulled together, but with guys sat there taking apart mobile phones and understanding them, how to repair them and hack them and make them into tools that they were useful for. And I could see straight away that actually, they're part of our, all these people are living in these cultures which are actually have really, really poor infrastructure. So being able to people like yourselves to advise and help businesses to build structures and systems and protocols which can actually address some of the bigger kind of worries that at government level aren't being addressed is incredible, isn't it? As a power, as a force for good.
You mentioned telephones and mobile phones. Mobile phones, even the simplest ones, we don't talk about smartphones, help in Africa and Pesa. So people all of a sudden were able to take money out, to transfer money, to tell their boss, this is my number, you can put it. It's like you gave them an indirect bank account, through a normal phone. And poor countries are much more innovative because the innovation is driven by need. If you're not hungry, and if you don't need a lot of, I mean, if you're just eating something or a lot, you don't think about the next food. If you don't have eaten, you think about a lot of food.
Yeah, but it's hunger.
They're much more innovative if you stay hungry.
I absolutely agree. It's incredible, actually. I mean, there were many things that I saw on that trip, and I've seen in other trips in countries like that, where their need is bigger, so that it drives them to actually find and look for solutions.
Yes.
And so I find it incredible that there is this entire huge technological sway towards helping support that. That really makes me quite happy when there is so potentially so much misuse of power in technology and finance across the world, that there is actually a big swathe of stuff to help fix stuff like that. So I think that's it.
I mean, this is just, I'm afraid, a side effect. It's all this data we provide, because that's a problem, because people want things for free. There's no such thing as for free. It's like this old saying, either you buy the product or you are the product. So basically, if you Google or if you get data or your Facebook, or it's like there's something new. A lot of people are much more aware of this, but I think we're giving up a lot, in terms of privacy and our data. But some people don't care. I don't care much anymore, because I can't control it. It's
become out of control, and it's
like polluted air. I can't change it.
Yeah.
I mean, we can change it slowly as a society together, but it can't be changed quickly. I mean, if the air is polluted, it
A lot of filter.
takes a lot of measures to unpollute it,
Yeah,
to make it clean again. Same thing with data and privacy. I think it will take a lot of measures, if those measures ever want to be implemented, because there's so many different interests in that.
That's a whole different podcast right there.
Yes, I just noticed.
You just lifted the lid on that right there. I looked right.
The connection is lost. Oh. No,
I was
but
like, oh my.
But that's the nice thing about the conversation we had. I enjoy this podcast a lot now because I never rehearse for podcasts, and it becomes much more real. But that also means sometimes we go into the direction we have to stop and go back. But at least it's real.
It's definitely real. I know, I like it. It's good. But it's provocative, isn't it? And I think a provocative conversation is good. But like my biggest takeout from that is that actually fintech believes in people and changes lives. I think that's a wonderful statement. I think you kind of wear that as a badge of honor. I might get that made for you as an enamel badge.
But it's not for everyone. But let's put it this way: I wish it would be the banner for our industry.
So coming back to you, like in between working tenaciously hard as you do and advising, what do you do to like refill your own bucket of like Spiros magic to make you the best person you can be? What would you do to like give you that freedom to like think?
I used to have more time for that.
Oh, there you go. That's something that needs fixing right there. Then
I was less successful. I have more time for that.
But it's important.
More successful, I have less time for this. It's just an awful trade-off. I mean, I read a lot. I read all the tweets I make, and I read these articles and tweet them. So I read a lot. But to reflect, I used to have more time to reflect.
Yeah.
So basically, I use up everything I experienced in my past, my failures, my startups, my art career, my small art career. Like I had exhibitions in my 20s as a photographer in galleries and bigger museums, and all your experiences flows in. But I draw from that.
Yeah. So you use those memories now, even as fuel.
Yes, and also to make judgments.
That's also a very good point. I like the fact that actually memories can be used to make good judgments, or to understand whether they were good or bad. And actually, I'm going to just build out from that. So I was thinking about like memories, because sometimes they define us. Like we can be like gripped in fear of them. But have you got one specifically, or have you ever had like a memory that's so bad you knew you needed to alter it in some way? So did you have to like maybe do something again to get a better memory impression of that?
Of course, in my 20s, even before 10 years old, I knew where I wanted to be. I didn't become exactly what I became, but somehow close. But it's a movie that inspired me. Many movies inspired me because I watched a lot of old movies. I'm a movie buff, even as a child, because as being alone at home, I was able to watch whatever I wanted to watch. So I loved to, and at that time, you didn't have many channels. So sum it up, I was consuming a lot of good movies just because there were a few channels, so they fed good stuff.
Yeah.
And so I had this movie, and that inspired me and defined me a lot. But I don't watch it anymore because I feel like it's jinxed if I watch it. But it defined me. It defined me.
Wow. But you can't tell us what the movie is?
No, I don't want to say.
I know. No.
But it's true.
Oh,
and
wow.
Even the music from the movie, I don't listen to it. I used to listen a lot to it. I used to watch it a lot, thinking that will help me to become successful.
Wow.
But then you gave up. But I know now it still defined me, but I don't watch it now because I don't want to fall back. So basically, this kind of fear is a bad thing. But we're all kind of superstitious to some degree.
In some degree, yeah. So that's, you've definitely been holding on to that memory, and I think you also kind of like answered the previous question as well. As like, you said you have admitted you're a film buff and you love like filling your head with that type of like inspiration, which is
That
great.
inspired me more than most things. And then, of course, I also Steve Jobs and Warren Buffett. Depending on what stage I was, there were people who inspired me, and then I forgot about them. But you still keep some things. It always, I mean, I was into Zen. You keep some of it. But nothing. I mean, the nice thing is I don't fall in love too much. I mean, I might fall in love, but I let go again, because the problem is with why I think I'm a little better than not most, some people about the future a little bit, because I don't fall in love. I don't commit myself to an idea. Because if you're committed and you're somehow, your vision is also your business, then I don't know if your judgment is driven by helping your business or your vision. And if you just look at what you believe it could happen, but you're detached from any consequences, you're much freer to see things real.
No, that's
if I look at the startup very quickly, I don't study it to begin, because I think if I would study it, I would understand it better. But I don't know if a consumer understands it better. So I want like with your ads, I want to get it very quickly. Because if I get it very quickly, I have hope that the customers get it very quickly. So therefore, otherwise I know the language, but if nobody speaks it, there's no use. It should be a language so simple. And then afterwards, you learn more about it. But we should approach things like children. Is it approachable? Can we use it? Can we do it? It's not good for every business, but I'm specialized in this. I'm specialized in understanding business, simple businesses, but most successful business simple. But they're extremely complex behind it.
Yeah,
but, I mean, look at a lot of things. I mean,
there's so many businesses. You're absolutely right. They're basically, if they can portray simplicity, then actually, like, what's behind it is generally, like you say, it's very well organized. It's got a huge infrastructure. It's very complex.
Look at Google. It's a box.
Yes, it's the efficiency of the way it's delivered and understood.
But what they do behind, I mean, it's different, but it's more tempting when it's easy.
Absolutely, it's being able to and look accessible, and a visual kind of like interpretation of that in my head right now is a swan. A swan looks incredibly graceful as it glides across a lake, but actually has two little feet absolutely paddling hell for leather underneath there to make it look like it's seamless and floating. And that's like any good business. But
beautiful said. I might use this one day, but I refer to you.
Thank you, Spiros. I'll take that. So I think we're moving towards wrapping up. I just wanted to just talk about like the cycle of the 5 stages actually. So imagination, fear, paralysis, acceleration, and memories. And I think we've covered off today that actually, like, memories actually it's not just linear. Like, memories is applied to all of those stages. It informs all of them in a different way, but we have like the ability to like mold them into different outcomes. But coming back to you, like, what's next for you with regards to like what you're driven towards? Do you know what you're looking to tackle next, or are you just kind of on the ride at the moment? There isn't anything particularly gnawing that's kind of like bothering you? Think actually
no, I just want to do what I mean. I have my goals set for each year, and I try to achieve those goals or exceed them, hopefully. And but I'll leave some things to luck, like some opportunities. There's very little things I can control. I can control myself, and I can try to do my job well, and then good things happen. I think. I mean, some bad things happen, obviously, like everyone. We all have those experiences, but I don't have specific goal. I just want to be every year a little more successful for myself, whatever it is. It's not about money. In part is about money, but it's not about money alone. I think that's the goal. But I measure myself, not in numbers, but look back. And if I don't achieve, so what? But I try. I try to set certain goals for myself.
No, I love that as well. Actually, the better to be a better version of yourself. I'd absolutely subscribe to that as
Mhm.
well. But also having the ability, again, I think not everybody does that, and I think it's actually quite a good thing to do, and actually have some reflection on like what's happened at like whether it be like a quarterly, like six month or yearly basis, and recognize achievements no matter how small they are, or in in whatever field
Or
they are.
digesting achievements. I mean, sometimes you're so fortunate, not always, and then you think, my God, I have to digest this. I have to digest this good fortune that happened to me. I mean, you know, and then you digest and go on. But sometimes you have to digest it, I think. When you struggle, whoever listens now, you find everything so difficult to achieve. And when you're successful, you think you make these huge steps that were unimaginable before. And then you think, my God, what changed? I'm still the same person, but you have to digest it.
Yeah, processing and digesting
Yes.
that
That happened to you?
oh
Did
yeah,
you
yeah.
have moments where you said you got this big deal or whatever, your company grew in a phase that you thought, my God, how did you get here?
Well, I think actually it's been one of my worst traits is being able to recognize good in things that I do, because like you, I think run very fast and have run very fast, like most of my life, because I'm always looking forward, and having the ability, and it's something I've only started doing in the last couple of years, of having the ability and to afford myself to recognize when things have gone well, because I'm always a little bit driven by the fear. Oh, that was a bad thing. I need to run harder and faster. But that's a bad trait. That's a bad trait personally. It's not good for you or like the family sometimes. So having the ability to recognize that. But what I love about that is that's directly relative to like forming memories. So like you can then form memories in a more positive outlook rather than just recognizing the fear in them. So like I always used to just stick them in the fear memory box, like one after the other.
But you beautifully said, because you can change your memory, not the fact, but the importance, because as you said beautifully before, you can transform your memory because you put it in a different perspective. Say, oh my God, thank God to this. I am who I am, for instance. So, maybe it was a bad experience then, but it made you who you are.
recognizing all of the parts that affected that, and understanding, like you said before, I think we mentioned somewhere earlier in the podcast about what you're actually in control of. You're not always in control of all of the bits that affect it.
Of course not.
So and understanding and recognizing that is good. So this has been, I've really enjoyed this, Spiros. Thank you very much.
I enjoyed it extremely because this was a podcast that was very different from all other podcasts. I mean, not good or bad, but this was had different aspects. I loved it, actually. I loved it.
Thank you. I'm glad about
I talked about a lot of things. I didn't say everything, but maybe in my next podcast, when people ask me again about this question, eventually I might talk about it, because that is like conquering your fear of
Oh, maybe we've got another. Maybe we've got a follow up at some point. I've made a couple of points, and I need to find out what that film is, and then work out what that fear is. So, just to sum up, lessons and learnings from memories today. I think we found out definitely that we can use memories to tackle fears and not just live in their shadows. Like you kind of like normally think that actually they just form the bad part of, particularly when it's associated to fear. But actually, if we
fuel.
for me,
it's a fuel that drives that engine.
it absolutely is a fuel. It's the wood on the fire. Keep putting the wood on the fire.
Always the same, It's like how life was created, and it's just
Yes, we need that. We need the failure memories as well to help move us forward. And actually, like memories that that fuel fear can be applied to create good outcomes when we apply them positively with purpose. Go back to like changes lives for the better. I love that. Particularly in your sector. And actually, I think with memories like we were talking about just now, is having the ability to process them and digest them, and make sure we understand them. But actually, like memories, let's not forget, like memories technically are the last stage of like the fear, as we've been talking over the series. But actually, it blends right into the imagination, and it's the bit that actually fuels it from the start. Because unless you have anything that informs you, then you don't have a direction to run in. So it is super important to make sure we recognize and we label them in a positive as well as a negative way. And if they're negative, make sure that we have the ability to move past them. So I'd just like to say thanks to all our listeners and contributors in this series of Be More Fearless and the 5 stages of fear. We've learned some incredible insights. And the biggest overriding factor, I think, is if used correctly, like we can leverage fear to push forwards and achieve even more than we assume was possible. And to me, I think that sounds like we're winning. So thanks very much. I'm Al, and this is Over and Out.
Al, thanks for having me again. It's Spiros Margaris.
Brilliant. Cheers.
Cheers.